What if I told you the Beatles almost broke up in 1966? It was 3 years before recording Abbey Road and Let It Be, way before they even set foot on that famous rooftop. Yep, the world's greatest band came this close to calling it quits, all thanks to death threats, angry mobs, and a comment about being bigger than Jesus. Let's rewind to one of the most dangerous, chaotic chapters in Beatles history. Touring had become pure chaos, walls of screaming fans that drowned out their music, and crackling sound systems so bad they could barely hear themselves play. Police security was more wishful thinking than doing protection. They weren't just musicians anymore. They were the biggest celebrities on the planet. Imagine trying to play a concert where the audience is screaming so loud you can't even hear your guitar.
We came here at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 to see them, and all they do is push you farther and farther away, and then they don't even let you sing.
George Harrison once said it best. It wasn't fun anymore. On top of that, John Lennon makes his now infamous comment in a March 1966 interview, "We're more popular than Jesus now." At the time, no one in Britain blinked. But once American media grabbed it, all hell broke loose.
This is Doug Layton and Tommy Charles. We're reminding you that our fantastic Beatle boycott is still in effect. Don't you forget what the Beatles have said.
Don't forget to take your Beatle records and your Beatle paraphernalia to any one of our 14 pickup points in Birmingham, Alabama, and turn them in this week if
There was
possible.
huge backlash and chaos. In the U.S. Bible Belt, Beatles records were burned in bonfires. Radio stations banned their songs. The Ku Klux Klan openly threatened them, and even death threats poured in. Imagine being the Beatles. You've worked your whole life to bring joy and music to millions, and suddenly mobs are literally burning your records in the streets. Their 66 U.S. tour became a nightmare. In Memphis, someone even threatened to shoot them on stage. At one concert, fireworks went off near the stage, and the band thought they'd been shot. George Harrison later joked that by 1966, touring felt like being thrown in the back of a truck and driven to the middle of a screaming crowd and shoved onto a stage with no escape plan. That wasn't what their rock and roll dream was. The Beatles' final official concert took place on August 29, 1966, at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. The set lasted just 33 minutes. The band knew, privately, it was their last tour show ever. They didn't even bother making it glamorous. Ringo said he couldn't hear a thing. John was fooling around with the organ during songs, and George was just waiting for it to be over. At the end, they piled into an armored car and sped away. George turned to the others and said, "That's it, I'm not doing this anymore." At that moment, the Beatles were ready to split. They were sick of touring, sick of the chaos, and honestly, sick of each other. But here's where history takes a turn. Instead of breaking up, the Beatles decided, okay, if we can't play live, we'll reinvent ourselves in the studio. This was the birth of Studio Beatles. Free from the madness of touring, they experimented by layering tracks and using orchestras. They even tried backwards guitar and different sound effects. And thank goodness they did, because out of that decision came Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the White Album, and the iconic Abbey Road. Basically, some of the greatest music ever recorded. So ironically, the chaos of 1966, the threats, the record burnings, the danger, may have saved the Beatles. By walking away from the stage, they opened the door to their most creative years. Here's the wildest part. At their final concert in Candlestick Park, no one in the audience knew it was the last time the Beatles would ever tour. Paul asked their roadie, Tony Barrow, to record the show on a cassette just so they'd have a memory of it. That tape still survives, and it's the only reason we have a full record of their last live performance. Here's a reflection to think about. If the Beatles had quit in '66, we'd never have Hey Jude, Come Together, or Let It Be. History almost robbed us of their greatest hits. So, the next time you hear a Beatles song from their later years, remember, it all came from one near breakup in 1966. chaos pushed them to reinvent themselves, and in the process, they gave us music that still changes lives today. Groovy, right? If you dug this Beatles story, hit that like button. And subscribe to Groovy Tunes with Del, so you don't miss the next one. More Fab Tales are on the way. Stay cool, man!